Today's close range meta is going to be a little bit different. We're going to feature something we don't normally do, and that is shotguns. And I don't normally cover them because I don't really like shotguns, but apparently they're overpowered. So you definitely got to try them out for yourself if you're looking to get them nerfed. And I've included this section over here on the spreadsheet if you want to check it out to kind of be aware of where the base damage profiles are. If you want to make sure you're getting those 2, 3-shot, 4-shot kills. First up is the Haymaker. These obviously got nerfed recently, which modified the range a little bit, but they're still pretty effective at their various damage ranges. So you can get some pretty good fast TTKs. You can kind of see how it's broken down. You don't really need much of a firing range demonstration. Obviously, one of the biggest things with shotguns, you can get cleaner iron sights by switching into tactical stance, which is normally ADS and then down on the D-pad. You can kind of see how that works. The other advantage is when you slide, you can actually get into that when it comes to Warzone, which is also even more effective when you're on auto tac sprint, so that when you slide, you can go ahead and close that distance, versus if you're sprinting, a lot of times there's going to be that sprint to fire time. So it's just something to be aware of with shotguns. They definitely can require more skill. Obviously, if I'm just waiting right here for you to come around the corner and I just spam you before you get a chance to react, not necessarily as skillful, but be able to close that distance is definitely more of a skillful maneuver. Swap over to the next one, which is the 2-tap shotty. And this is a lot like the MWIII from Black Ops 4 and then Blackout. Very good gun, obviously a little bit harder to use. And the only other part is the express bolt behind my web camera. So we'll go ahead and check that out and you'll be able to get that screenshot there. And then this one is also a finesse type gun. You can go ahead and put in that tac stance. You can see how much clearer the visibility is. And then you're going to go ahead and finesse with this. You get your shot in, and you're going to use walls, cover, and use movement to your advantage. So this one, very punishing because it relies heavily on your ability to finesse in and out of a gunfight, which for some people, they could be harder than others to go ahead and close that distance. And then that brings us to the Riveter, which is also pretty disgusting. Kind of see how the build lays out there. Again, this one got slightly nerfed, but one of the other parts that goes underrated, you can see how ugly that is, and then it goes to tac stance and you're good to go. But the one thing that's underrated is when you fire these flame shells at another player, they lose visibility, especially if you're running against keyboard and mouse player. It gets damn near impossible to go ahead and see what the heck they're shooting at. And this one is full auto, which makes it even that much more advantageous. If you slide into a movement, you tac stance, and then you're into it right away, you're going to be pissing some people off in those death comms. Next one up is a little bit more of a niche gun. It does have a ridiculously fast TTK, but if you end up hitting any kind of limb shots, it drops off the TTK, and that's where this thing can feel like it melts. You also have to spam the trigger. 400 RPM doubles up to 800 because it has its binary trigger, which allows it to fire 2 bullets basically with 1 trigger, 1 release when you get that 1-in-1. Again, this one's pretty straightforward. You pull the trigger, it does 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's kind of how that one works. Not like meta for everyone, but it's good to mix it up and still very competitive. Next one up will be the first SMG we cover today, and that's going to be the Striker, the regular Striker mobility. Obviously, before this update, we didn't really have the JAK BFB. Now we do, so you can equip this. I'm not necessarily a fan of the attachment. I don't like appearing on the minimap. Some of you don't care. A lot of my SMGs are built around having a suppressor, so I stay off the minimap. You can go ahead and reposition. JAK BFB, obviously, it directionally place you on the map. But the great part about it is it can counteract a no stock. So if you're comfortable, if you want a nice mobility build, you can go ahead and go with this, and the JAK BFB will be that go-to for you. So you get insane mobility, insane movement, and then you're still able to shoot straight, which is kind of nice with the gun. One thing to keep in mind with the JAK BFB, for whatever reason on SMGs, it's bugged where there's 2 of them. So if we go towards the end here, you can see there's a JAK BFB that's locked. Don't worry, it's just one of the 2. The other one is unlocked. I don't even know why that one's in the game. And then I favorited it so it goes towards the front, which you can do with R2. And you can see it stars it. Now we'll continue making our way through the rest of the SMGs and MCW that we have there. So Striker 9 Balance is a pretty solid build all the way around. I think this one's good if you kind of want to mix it up. Definitely gets beat out by a couple of the top guns that we're going to talk about. Solo MCW is also another one. This is with the conversion kit. Pretty solid gun overall. It just doesn't have really big enough mag. I know some people said they could bug it out and get a 60 round. Could be a lot more viable. It's great sniper support. Again, in solos, this one could be a lot of fun, but you kind of got to balance it out. And then the Striker balance build, you can kind of see how it is. And this one's built kind of like it says balance with the suppressor, so I can still shoot straight. Then again, that gives us to the MCW version, which Again, you got to have that conversion kit. I'm pretty sure that was a weekly unlock. This one is not for recoil control. This one's not built for recoil control. Again, this one's more built as an SMG. It doesn't have good bullet velocity, so that's one thing that when you build this out, you got to be aware of. It comes in at 384. That's not that high. So that's kind of how you'd build that one out. Pretty straightforward. Doesn't have the greatest bullet velocity, but we'll get the job done up close. If you use this as sniper support, I would definitely invest in putting a little bit more bullet velocity for those little bit medium to longer ranges. And that brings us to the WSP. The Swarm got nerfed, heavily nerfed, but not within its first damage profile. Up to about that 6-meter distance, it's still going to kill pretty fast, right around that 600. It's going to feel good. I kind of got spoiled by running a 100-round mag. They should have really nerfed the mag and probably left the gun alone, and it kind of would have balanced it out because we got a lot of good guns to choose from. And then you got the WSP with an optic. I don't like the iron sights, so I don't run iron sights on it. And this is more for like a medium range. It feels a lot more like a Milano that we had in Cold War during Warzone. So very fun option. Can definitely build it out for a longer range, and it can kind of serve as that longer range weapon. So the Swarm, same build kind of that we've had for a bit. Again, nothing crazy about this one other than it still has the 100-round mag, still pretty easy to use. The biggest problem with it is it doesn't deal a lot of damage once you get beyond that first damage profile. So something to be aware of. Barrel stuff, treat it like a shotgun, and it will do you fine. And then the WSP9, pretty straightforward there. I think this one's kind of wonky because it does have that open bolt delay. It does fire slower. So you feel like, oh man, if you miss, you're penalized a little bit harder, which is always crappy. But you can see not a ton of issues at the medium range there. It just fires really slow, and I'm not really a big fan of it, even though I know people probably love it because you get that first damage drop off, which is like 15 to 20 meters. That brings us to the actual meta. Obviously, all these are viable. All these can be broken, particularly these shotguns. But when it comes to the new meta, it is definitely this brand new SMG, which is the HRM9, and then we have the AMR9. And I've built these both with a suppressor. If you want less recoil, get rid of these and put on an attachment for that. The AMR is pretty solid. If you get some limb shots or some stomach shots, it can drop the TTK, but it feels good. Doesn't have a ton of recoil up to a pretty good distance, and that's where it excels. Is its range is pretty solid. If we look at here, it gets about a 20-meter range. That's huge. The other big problem with this gun is it has a terrible sprint to fire time. So you have to equip attachments for that. So if you're going to change my build, leave the rear grip because the rear grip is it's kind of what's the main thing here for the sprint to fire time that we're seeing here. We're going to go ahead and lower it by 22%, which brings that down. If you get sprint to fire time a little too slow, 100 is probably where you'd want it for an SMG, but this is about as good as you can get with still being able to control it. The iron sights look ugly, so I mean you're kind of stuck with that. And then the brand new HRM 50-round mag is unlocked for most people. I think they've bumped it out in waves, so almost everyone should have it if you've unlocked it and leveled it. So you just got to be kind of aware of that. I feel like there's some tuning they can do with the iron sight to go ahead and make sure that the dot lines up, the imaginary dot in the center of the screen lines up with the way this gun fires. So have fun out there with the classes. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.